Hello everyone, this is Aviva from Crafting on the Floor. I was just going to make a quick book video in response to Russell Davis's Book of Hours from the year 1760, I believe. This is a book that I found in my collection. It's a dictionary. It's from 1799. It's not quite as old as the Book of Hours, but you can see here, might have to take this out of its holder. But it says down here, it's from 1799, and there's an inscription here. It says, John Booth's book, Nuttall Lane, 1804, 9 April. Whosoever borroweth me, be sure to keep me clean. I am not like a linen cloth that can be washed again, Lancaster, Lancashire, with a little flourish here down at the end. And I don't know if you can see, but they spelled linen, Linnen, which I think is, and I just think the handwriting is lovely. It's an English dictionary, complete and universal, which is an absolute lie. But an explanation of difficult words and technical terms in all faculties and professions, wherein algebra, anatomy, architecture, arithmetic, astronomy, botany, chemistry is spelled with 2 Y's, dialing, I have no idea what that is actually, divinity, gardening, geography, geometry, grammar, heraldry, history, husbandry, hydrostatics, law, mathematics, mechanics, military art, music, natural history, navigation, optics, painting, perspective, philosophy, pneumatics, poetry, rhetoric, sculpture, surveying, etc. But also a pronouncing dictionary. And both of those are interesting. The interesting thing too to me is that a lot of these sciences mentioned, when this was published, I don't think they were 100 years old. Optics really took off with Isaac Newton, as did hydrostatics and pneumatics. Not navigation. Mathematics, of course, took off when Isaac Newton invented calculus. So some of these were barely 100 years old at the time. You can see, too, my dictionary, it has been eaten by some worms over the years. When I got it, it was worm-free. I'm actually not even sure where I got this. It's actually a piece of wood on the cover, covered by several pieces, I suspect, of leather. The back has disappeared. I still have the back somewhere. I've kept it in a super secret place so that I don't lose it, but I've forgotten where I put it. And but you can see here the leather is coming apart, so I'm gonna have to get that fixed eventually, or it's gonna fall off. And at some point it had some mold, but I've taken care of that so it doesn't spread. The interesting thing about this to me is that they kind of got bored about halfway through the book. So A through E, let's see, where's E? E ends here. And that is almost half the book. By the time they get to T, which is, or S, I should say, S and T. S starts here. They've completely thought, I'm getting tired of this. The S and the T is together, I think, are smaller than the E section itself. So it's very much, someone put a lot of work into it, but someone definitely got tired of it halfway through. Let's see. So the interesting thing I said was the pronunciations of this, and I think I am going to take this out of its holder see if I can do this without stopping. So I wanted to go to basically to gyno, because it was really interesting. So here we are. Let's see. Oh, gymnastics. Gymnastics is a good one. From, here you go, the Greek. They assumed that if you needed to use this dictionary, you understood Greek, and you understood what these Greek letters are. There are no explanations for what the Greek is in this book. They assumed you knew how to read Greek. But let's go back to, let's see, skipped a page, that's why. There was something that was really interesting I found yesterday. GY. Oh, here it is. Right under gymnasium. Gynocracy denotes the government of women or the state where women are capable of the supreme command, such as Britain and Spain. I found that fascinating, mostly because this was written and published in a time when women could obviously not vote, women could not own land, women could not have any money. If whatever they owned went straight to their husbands, they did not have the power to divorce their husband. They did not have the power to, if they were separated from their husbands, the children went to the husband, not to the wife, because the children were considered property, and they went to their husband. And yet, in this book, they claim that Britain was a government of women, a state where the women are capable of the supreme command. Women were not allowed to do anything. And yet, this is what they believed at the time. So they had a bit of a cognitive dissonance there. Now, what I also thought was interesting was, let's go to the E's, back to the E's. I was thinking of, at the time, when I first looked at this really closely, I looked at words that were found in Jane Austen, because Jane Austen was written about Pride and Prejudice, rather, was written about 14 years after this was published. So I'm assuming the words were about this, the meanings of the words hadn't changed that much. And sure enough, here we go. To elope, because if you remember in Pride and Prejudice, her sister runs off with Mr. Wickham, and they elope to Scotland. But to elope, which I learned comes from the Belgian word, to run away, to break loose, to escape from law or restraint. In law, to quit or leave a husband. That's very different from what we think of to elope, obviously. And so they were saying, or she was saying that her sister was simply running away to Scotland, not necessarily to get married, but to break loose, to go somewhere else, to leave the rule of her father's house, which I thought was very interesting. Understanding. I don't think that was another word that to understand, to have perfect knowledge or proper idea of. Understanding, that power of the mind by which we arrive at a proper idea or judgment of things, knowledge, judgment, correspondence, skill, communication. Nothing about an understanding of an elopement, or of a marriage or an engagement. Nothing was said about that, which I thought was really interesting. So, I don't know why that fascinated me so much. So, let's see. what else was so fun about this book? Oh, Henry. Let's go back to Harry to harness. Harold will work. Henry's are more interesting. Oh, heart. If you look up heart, here we are. Components and derivatives. Heart comes from a Saxon word, which I did not know. The E in this word, as well as all its components and derivatives, is dropped in pronunciation as heart, heartache, blah, blah. So what this tells me is that at some point, this word was pronounced heart. And that happens a lot in these books. In these words. They tell you, it used to be said this way. This letter was pronounced, but now it is dropped. And then brain. Brain is interesting because that is where the soul is said to reside. See, to B-R-A, brain. I didn't say I was smart, or that I could spell. Braid, brain, to brain. But here it is, wherein all the organs of sense terminate, and wherein the soul is said to reside. It is divided into the cerebrum, cerebellum, medulla oblongata, or medulla, spinalis. The brain is much larger in men than in any other animal, which we now know is not true, and is generally biggest in such other animals as show the greatest degree of sagacity, such as monkeys, etc. Also not true. Also, that's a Saxon word, which I think is fascinating. So then, anything regarding the birds and the bees is non-existent. Here we go. Let's see, here we are. To orgasm, a sudden violent impulse or appetite. It's a Greek word, look at that. Yeah. So, not exactly where you would come to learn about the birds and the bees. In general, it is a fascinating book. You can see how words have changed. You can see how... Oh, that's the one. I haven't looked this up yet, but let's do so, because I think night is going to be interesting. K-N-E-F-G-H-I-J-K. Yeah, I still sing the alphabet song in my head. Sorry, guys. Oh, we were looking up Henry. I forgot about Henry. H-I-J-K. J. There is no night. Is there? Huh. Let's see. I'm gonna hold this up so we can explore where K is. Here it is. H-I-J. Oh, here it is. Okay. Night. I wanted to see about the GH in night. The GH in this word and its compounds and derivatives is mute and pronounced as if spelt N-I-T-E. And that says, Enich Saxton. Among the Romans was a person of the second degree of nobility, following immediately that of the senators. At the ceremony of conferring this honor, he had a horse given to him, which was kept in the public charge, so the public paid for it, with which he was to serve in the wars. Knight, in a modern sense, properly signifies a person who, for his virtue and prowess, is by the king raised above the rank of gentleman into a higher class of dignity and honor. Knighthood was formerly the first degree of honor in the army, and conferred, sorry for the shaking there, hang on, and conferred with much ceremony on those who had distinguished themselves by some notable exploit in arms. The ceremonies at their creation have been various. The principal was a box on the ear and a stroke with a sword on the shoulder. They put on him a shoulder belt, a gilt sword, spurs, and other military accoutrements. Being thus armed as a knight, he was led to the church. Camden describes the manner of making a knight, knight bachelor amongst us, which is the lowest and most ancient order of knighthood, to be thus: the person kneeling was gently struck on the shoulder by the prince, and accosted, and I'm not sure what that word is, in these words: "Rise, be a knight in the name of God." Knight is also understood of a person admitted into any order, either purely military or former military and religious, as the Knights of the Garter of Malta, of the Holy Guest, etc. I love this. Knight errantry, the practice of wandering about in quest of needless encounters. I didn't notice that. So let's go back to Henry. That was interesting. We now know about the GH. I had heard rumors that was true, but never seen it. So the way they did kings in this book, Henry the First starts way down here and goes, he gets a full page to himself, another column to himself, and then Henry II starts up here. The interesting thing is, usually today when there's a person that they're describing, the first thing they say is, say, Elizabeth, was born on this date, died on this date, blah, blah, lived here, was queen from whatever. And then, then the narrative, if any, in a dictionary, usually it will just say was queen from blah, and that's it. But this doesn't do that. Henry, surnamed Beauclerc, youngest son of William I, ascended the throne while his father Robert was returning from the Holy Land. Notice there's no dates. No dates until we get to August 5th, 1100, was crowned by Maurice, bishop of that see. So that's really how you find out when he lived, was because you were expected to know what king was during what time and when they lived generally. And from the narrative, you might get a date or two. And it's like that in everything. There's no real set dates. There's a date here of 1133. And I'm not sure it says when he dies. It does say he was facetious, fluent and affable to his favorites. His capacity, naturally good, was improved and cultivated in such a manner that he acquired the surname of Beauclerc by his learning. So, that's how important people are dealt with in this book. So it's an interesting book. I really enjoy it. And every time I open it up, I learn something new. It's not something I have gone through page by page, actually. But, and like I said, I'm not really sure how I got it. But it's mine, and yay, me. So I hope you enjoyed this tour of the English dictionary, printed in 1799. Ooh, look at that. There's price, 9 shillings. Wow, that's good. Oh, coins. We gotta look up coins. I forgot the best part. Now, most of you know I studied economics, so this part really, really fascinated me. Coins. So they have literally coins, monetary metal, basically a definition of a coin. Nothing really fascinating about that. But Jewish coins related to English money gives you the different conversion rates in 1799 of pounds, shillings, pence of each of those denominations. Now, it's not just Jewish coins. And I have to admit that I didn't know we had Jewish coins in 1799, so that was pretty fascinating. I mean, I know we have them now, obviously, in Israel. But then we have the conversion rate of French coins in 1799, and their conversion to English money. I'm not sure what these are. Oh, ducats. So is this Flemish? Looks like, Spanish. Cusada. Ducats. That is fascinating. They have pieces of gold, a value of 3. Wow, look at that. Dutch coins here. The ducat of Holland. Also, the Flemish coins are here. And their conversions. Danish coins. And they continue up here. Swedish coins. Muscovite coins. And then it says, if we were really to give an account of many other coins, such as the Polish, Turkish, Persians, Indians, etc., but as a particular description, this would take up much more room than we have to spare, and refer to other books on this subject. But I think it's fascinating that the Jewish coins and the French coins get a whole, this weird chart that I'm not sure I understand was necessary, but the other coinage just gets a quick conversion rate. And so we can tell, I think, from this, deduce that Jewish coins and French coins were the predominant foreign coinage that people saw in Britain in 1799. Now, I should mention that inflation, in case you think that this book would be out of the information would be old by the time it was printed, inflation was pretty stable between throughout the medieval era. It did rise and fall a bit. When your coinage is dependent on the amount of gold that it backs up. That's one of the benefits of having your money backed up by a standard, is that inflation tends to be low, because it fluctuates. It has to fluctuate back down when the inflation crisis is over. Unlike today, we have fiat money today, and so we can just print more money, and so that tends not to happen. So but I can say that inflation between 1800 and 1900 was remarkably, it was very little. It was a very stable time. There were some hiccups, especially after a gold rush. And but then, you know, inflation calmed down and things went back to normal. So this would not have been out of date by the time they printed the book. All right. Now, I'm really going to leave you this time. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you soon. Thanks. Bye.